Tonight, as ever, Iran is hearing what it fears most, the sound of competence cutting through propaganda. Since the late June ceasefire with Israel, at least 50 blasts and fires have been logged across 19 provinces, and they're not confined to refineries or depots, apartment towers, bazaars, industrial parks, sites near military facilities have all featured, and officials reach almost ritually for the same script: gas leak, faulty wiring, burning rubbish. But the numbers and the patterns say otherwise. Take the 14th of July spike. A residential complex in Qom blew out its facade, injuring 7. The line was gas. Reuters relayed the claim within hours. It may be true in that single case, but it's not a satisfying explanation. It doesn't explain the repeated explosions for a nationwide drumbeat of 1 or 2 accidents a day in a country where gas use is lowest in the summer. Senior voices around the system are no longer pretending it's peace. Yahya Rahim Safavi, the Supreme Leader's military advisor, said plainly that Iran is in a stage of war and that another round may begin at any time. Well, does he mean in a stage of war, or does he mean in a stage of civil war? It's a striking admission in a regime that prefers euphemism. What is actually happening? Roughly 30% of incidents have hit commercial sites, 24% residential, 16% industrial, 14% military, 10% public facilities. And the rest is unclear. Tehran province leads the count, followed by Hormozgan and Khorasan, Razavi and others, and that mix looks like a campaign testing different pressure points, including morale. In western Tehran, on the 10th to the 11th of July, witnesses insisted a tower blast was not a gas event, and reports noted that the building had not even been connected to the gas grid. And when the official line strains credibility, humour and rumour fill the space. Tehran and Iran is a very creative place. There's actually a rather beautiful new animated film which is doing the round of international festivals at the moment, called Juliet and the King, or The King and Juliet. It's stunning animation. But meanwhile, back with these explosions, with these blasts, Iranian insiders have quietly told international reporters that they suspect coordinated sabotage, with Israel the obvious suspect given the long record of covert action inside Iran, but it's not proof, and it's but it is the regime's own private assessment leaking into public view. But there is also a second view, that there's simply a confederation of anti-Islamic regime activists working to bring down the Ayatollahs. Alongside the bangs, there's the knock at the door. In 12 days after Israel's June offensive, Iranian agencies claimed more than 700 arrests for alleged collaboration with Israel. Rights groups report fast-tracked trials, no counsel, and a spree of executions on espionage charges since the fighting began, with claims that people are Mossad spies. At least one of those executions of Ruzbe Vadi was confirmed on the 6th of August. This is deterrence by spectacle. It also signals insecurity for the Ayatollah's regime. When political families feel safe, they stay in a country. When they fear collapse, they do what Soviet and Iranian elites have always done. They move their children, and Canadian authorities are now probing dozens of cases of regime-linked figures who appear to have entered Canada in recent months, even as Canada designated the IRGC a terrorist entity in 2024. That's not definitive proof of an elite exodus, but it matches the pattern Iranians themselves are describing. What I find so extraordinary about this awkward part here is Canada has listed the IRGC as a terrorist group, but the United Kingdom has not. Ministers tell Parliament that they keep all their options under review. and the new government has floated legal tweaks to deal with the awkwardness of prescribing a branch of a foreign state. But the government hasn't done anything. The IRGC, despite attacking people in London, despite attacking Iranian dissidents in London, is still not designated as a terrorist group. And yet, at the same time, the same government has used the Terrorism Act 2000 to prescribe Palestine action after a run of unlawful direct action stunts. One doesn't have to like Palestine action to spot the inconsistency and the absurdity of the double standard. It gets worse. On the 31st of July, the UK joined allies warning about Iranian kidnap and assassination plots on our own soil, yet still balked at the step our allies have taken. If the IRGC funds, trains and deploys operatives and proxies in the UK, here, then the argument for prescription is not symbolic, it's practical policing. According to detailed reporting, the IRGC, their officers, recently flew to Kabul to obtain a modified version of the Ministry of Defence database that was leaked during the 2022 evacuation. Names of Afghans tied to British units, along with British handlers and references. And the allegation is that Tehran wants hostages and bargaining chips before sanctions snap back. If verified, this is not only a British scandal, it's a live threat to people that we promised to protect. And yet we still haven't prescribed the IRGC. As for the blasts, Israel covert action with local assistance, well, that fits capability and motive. To degrade IRGC security nodes, to impose cost without crossing a bright red line and fuel public doubt about regime competence. The pattern of targets and timing is consistent with this, and Iranian officials themselves whisper as much to foreign journalists. Caution is still required. Intelligence services don't give out briefings. But it seems to me that domestic networks are exploiting the moment, and Iran has a long history of armed and unarmed opposition across ethnic and religious lines. And some incidents, and as far as religion concerns, I think it was probably Maya Tusi who said that in Iran there's only 30% of people are practicing Muslims. That is astonishing. That is probably a lower estimate than many Western countries. But that's despite the repression in Iran and the theocratic rule. But some incidents of sabotage and destruction could be done by local cells or criminal networks striking soft infrastructure to sap state capacity, and this would produce a mixed target like the stuff we're seeing. Evidence is thinner, but not absent in Iran's own arrest claims. What is clear is that there is failure going on, and that is also dressed up as sabotage. Aging grids, corner cutting, patronage that is causing a cascade of accidents. The gas leak chorus could sometimes be true. The problem for Tehran is credibility. When you call everything an accident, nothing sounds like the truth. And the strategic narrative, Safavi's stage of war line, abandons the comfort of normal life. Once a regime admits permanent crisis, the elites start hedging, and the mass arrests, the hangings, to restore deterrence can terrify, but they seldom repair the broken legitimacy. The larger the purge, the more it reveals. And elite insurance policies of top families sending their children abroad, the investigations in Canada about how easily senior figures can get their relatives out of Tehran and can acquire a safe harbour, despite Ottawa's harder legal line. The issue isn't so much whether Canada is accepting these refugees. The issue is that the confidence in the Iranian regime is shattering, is breaking. As for the UK, what should we do? First of all, we should prescribe the IRGC immediately under the Terrorism Act, or legislate a clean state-sponsored terror category that captures the IRGC situation without ambiguity. Parliament has debated this for years, and delay strengthens the wrong people. We need to close the front organisations. We need to close the Iranian, Islamic centre in the middle of London, which is run by the Iranian Secret Service. We need to use the Charity Commission Companies House and the proceeds of crime tools to strip cover from regime-linked hubs that launder money or influence. The state threat statement from the 31st of July is our legal spine, and we need to shield the Afghan auxiliaries. We need to treat everyone on the compromise list as a high risk for IRGC coercion and expedite safe location where we have obligations, and we do have obligations because Britain is now responsible for a lot of the mess that is emerging at the moment. The Telegraph's reporting demands a ministerial answer on safeguarding for the Afghans on the two lists that have been exposed and that have now been exploited by Tehran and the Taliban. We need to calibrate speech laws with care. If Palestine Action's prescription is about criminal damage to air bases, we need to say so precisely and charge on those facts. We shouldn't let a domestic ban become a substitute for confronting a foreign security service on our streets. A state can, as for Iran, a state can survive explosions. It may struggle to survive explosions, but it can survive explosions. The pattern since June, however, shows something that is worse than bad plumbing. It shows a governing caste that no longer trusts its story, its people, or its luck. And the right policy now in London is not messing around and deflecting. It should be about clear signals, clarity. We need to call the IRGC terrorists. We need to call them what our closest allies have already called them. We need to protect the people our mistakes have endangered, and we need to stop pretending that an enemy security service is just another difficult counterpart. The time for polite ambiguity has passed.